Hello, and thank you for listening. I wanted to have an outlet that was a bit more casual to my Instagram, which is at Begoniasarawak. So, here I just want to talk about plants in general, but more specifically begonia, and I'll have different topics. I have no idea what kind of schedule, if I'll even be on a schedule for this. I just thought it would be fun to come up with some sort of, quote unquote podcast. Although I'm not really much of a talker, so now in hindsight, it might not be the best idea. But anyway, I just want to talk about different topics and have it be a bit more casual, have it be more of a conversation than what I usually do over on Instagram. So, a little about me. My name is Kristen. I am 31 and a half years old. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, although I am originally from New York and I lived there most of my life. Then I moved a couple different places. I met my fiance in Boston and I lived in Boston for a few years. And then we both decided to move down here to Florida somewhat recently, like 8 or 9 months ago. So this is brand new for me, this kind of environment. So I think I'll talk separately about the difference in plant care between the two environments because it's not all that different because I have terrarium plants, which are indoor plants. So it's not like, I'm growing plants outside, which would be a major difference, moving from Boston to West Palm Beach because my plants are inside in little plastic containers. So truthfully, it's not all that, big, but I'm sure I can go into more details on that in a separate podcast, whatever. We'll just call it a podcast. So yeah, I moved to West Palm Beach. I am educated as a nurse, as an RN, registered nurse. I worked in the ICU for about 3.5 to 4 years. I did travel nursing for a bit towards the end of my career, and I absolutely did not like it. I was just, I don't want to say miserable because I don't want to sound dramatic, but I was just so unhappy. And the thought of doing that job for the rest of my life was heartbreaking. That I'm not being dramatic. It really was heartbreaking. So at the end of 2018, I was finishing up a traveling assignment and I didn't renew my contract. I didn't look for another contract. It was at the end of the year. It was like 2 weeks before Christmas. So I thought, well, I'll go home for the holidays and I'll figure out what I want to do, take a little break because I can get a contract fairly easily. It wasn't particularly difficult. And I wasn't struggling for money or anything like that. So anyway, I went home for the holidays and I never went back. So yeah, that's that. However, when I was working as a nurse, that is how I originally got into houseplants, not begonias, but houseplants in general. Let me backtrack. When I was growing up, we lived in New York, and my parents, but mostly my mom, are very avid gardeners, landscapers. Like, our outdoor situation was phenomenal. It was always manicured. Like, there were so many plants, so many trees and bushes and flowers, and my mom had a vegetable garden in the back, and she tried growing a whole bunch of stuff. And so, and whatever comes along with that, bird feeders and, just like typical, outdoorsy stuff. And so I always grew up around it and doing outside plant chores, let's say, like mulching or helping in the vegetable garden or something like that. But I never had my own house plants until I moved out of my parents' house and when I started my first nursing job. And that's when I got just a few regular houseplants from Home Depot. I actually still have one of my original houseplants from 2017. That's when I first got into it. It's just a snake plant, nothing crazy. But yeah, I got some houseplants at Home Depot. I got, a Monstera deliciosa. I got a snake plant. I tried my luck with a few ferns, which all died. I tried a ZZ plant. That died. I overwatered it for sure. But yeah, I loved the way that houseplants made the home feel more complete. It, sounds silly, but you're bringing a natural nature element and bringing it inside of an apartment complex. So it made, the kind of sterile inside environment feel a bit more natural. And I just really liked how plants can do that. So I never went crazy. Even now, I love my begonias. I love my houseplants, but I truly do not have that many. I like them more for decorating purposes and not like I don't want an indoor jungle. Personally, that's not my vibe. I don't like that personally. I like decorating with plants aesthetically. So when I had my first apartment, I had actually, let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 6 houseplants, just the basic ones. Like I had a philodendron Brazil. Let's see if I can name them. I had a philodendron Brazil. I had a snake plant. I had a ZZ plant. I had a Monstera deliciosa. I had a peace lily, which I murdered. And I had in and out a whole bunch of ferns. Basically, I would buy them, they would die, I would replace it with a new one. So that was that. Now I'm much better with ferns. But yeah, so that's how I first got into houseplants. And then all of them have died except for the one that I have currently, which is the snake plant. That actually lives outside on my balcony here in Florida. It's been loving it out there. So that's that. And then how I got into begonia was I was living in Boston. I was with my fiance at the time. So he's still my fiance. That sounded weird. Okay. Me and my fiance were living in Boston at the time. There you go. And I was perusing through Instagram, as one does. I was not in the market for anything in particular, and I came across Maggie's at Vagina Begonia Instagram, and there was a video of her Begonia species Sarawak, and obviously it had flash on it. And I'll see if I can insert a clip or something. I know I've posted about it on my Instagram before, but the way the leaves were shifting colors, the fact that it was blue and purple, I literally did not know that nature could do that. I didn't even think it was possible. Like the sparkles I've seen here and there, but I think it was just the all-encompassing. It was sparkly, it was blue, it was purple, it was changing color in front of my eyes. I literally was mesmerized. I don't even know how many times I've watched that video. I thought it was fake for like a split second, and I was like, no, this is real. So found out it was a begonia, blah, blah, blah. I went on to Etsy because I had to do research on how to get plants online, because up until that point, I had only ever purchased plants from Home Depot. It sounds silly, but I didn't even know that there was Etsy, like that people sold plants on Etsy, or, I just didn't even think of it. I had to research it. So when I typed it in the search bar, I thought, oh, for sure, like I'm never going to be able to find one. This is like, a super rare plant. This was, for reference, it was May of 2021. And there was one online from an Etsy seller, and it was, I don't know, it was like over $300 at the time, because I think it was, like COVID plant prices and all that. Yeah, it was over $300. And mind you, I had absolutely zero begonia experience. I have never owned a begonia before in my life. I've never purchased a plant online before, ever. I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't have any rare plant experience because I had only purchased plants from Home Depot before. And it was just everything about this plant was my first. So long story short, I wound up purchasing it. And the rest is history. I started my Instagram after that, and I wanted it to be, when I first started my Instagram, I wanted it to be like a plant diary. Like I wanted to post pictures, because I don't even think reels were that big of a thing back then. I mean, they had them, like reels were out, but they weren't like what they are now, like how Instagram pushes reels. So I just wanted to take pictures of my plant so that way I can look back and have it be almost like a picture, like a picture diary. And so that's how that all happened. But yeah, so I purchased the plant from Ireel's Exotic Garden on Etsy. I've purchased a few plants from her. She has great, fantastic quality plants. I've never had any issues with them. Highly recommend if you're interested. But yeah, so I got that plant. It was my first everything. My first begonia, first rare plant, first ordering a plant online, like all of it was new. And I'll just tell a funny story. So, it was my first terrarium plant also, but I'm sure you could gather that because I had only ever bought plants from Home Depot. I have said that so many times this video, but so everything about that plant was new, and I had no idea how to take care of terrarium plants, like zero. I didn't even know people sold plants on Etsy, like just, get into that mindset. So when I first got the plant, before that, I had ordered a little glass terrarium from Amazon. And so when I got the plant, I put it inside of the glass terrarium, and I filled up a shot glass filled with water, and I put it right next to the plant. And I'll see if I can find a picture of it, because I know I deleted so many pictures on my phone like last year. So I don't know if I still have it or not, but I am going to see if I can find it, and I'll put it in. But it was just this plant next to a shot glass of water inside this little like glass terrarium. And I sent a picture of it to Irina, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, you need to put some moss in there and wet the moss. Like, I don't know why you have a shot glass filled with water in there. It's like, okay. I mean, in a nice way, obviously, but you can tell, like, she was probably like, what the heck is this girl doing? Anyway. So yeah, that's how I got into begonia. And we're approaching the 15-minute mark, so I think I will stop here. I don't know how long I want to make these, but I just want them to be like fun and kind of interactive. So yeah, I feel good about stopping here at 15 minutes. I'm sure more, I don't know, what do people call them? Episodes? I don't know. More other, whatevers episodes are going to be longer. Some might be shorter, what have you. But I hope you enjoyed this first one. And thank you for listening again. Bye.